Hi, folks, and welcome to No More Top 50, the Top 10. The Top 10 vintage games of all time. I cannot wait. This is going to be a good one. I have a lot of number ones on here, of course, things I haven't mentioned before. A lot of people are probably already guessing what I have up there. Some people who've seen my list in the past already know. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with my big one, a former number one, and what was number one for years for me, Stratomatic Baseball. I am a huge baseball fan, and I love the Stratomatic games. And this is the version that I have. And even though the cards aren't the same now, I don't get the player cards anymore. I make my own cards, and I have my own team. In fact, who knows, Mark? Maybe this year you're going to be drafted on one of the teams and play in the league with me. Bernardo has a card. Luke has a card. Why not? We're going to put more and more people in there. I put people I know in there. And it all started back when I was a little kid, and my dad just didn't have the money to pay for a new set of cards every year. And I started complaining with him, say, Dad, but so-and-so doesn't play for the Braves anymore. He went, okay, well, mark him out and write White Sox, and then bring him over to the White Sox. And I was like, oh. And then I thought, oh, what about rookies? We don't have any of the rookie cards. We need the rookies. He went, okay, who are you talking about? And he told me the rookie. He grabbed a baseball card with the rookie, looked up his stats, looked through the stack of old Stratomatic cards, found someone who matched pretty good the stats, and then copied it on an index card, because that's all these are, is index cards. He goes, there you go. And I went, wait, you can do that? And he went, yeah, you do that. You can do that with anyone. And that was the year that Matt Wilkins played for the New York Mets, first base. And then I said, hey, it's so fun to have me as a Met. Why not just bring my whole all my friends in on this and then make our own league? I have been playing Stratomatic Baseball at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. Before I was married, I was playing 2 seasons, a fall and a summer league. But now I only play it once a year. I have done this ever since I was in grade school. I still play every year. I play my season out. However, I will say, ever since my first twins, the seasons have been cut down and down. Instead of a 3-game series with each team, it went to a 1-game series in 2020. And then in 2021, I cut some of the teams down. I cut two teams out of each league. And then in this year, 2022, I shortened the playoffs and cut out the All-Star game. And for next year, just because I just don't have as much time to play this anymore, I am cutting out an entire second league. I was playing 2 different leagues, a men and women's league. I'm cutting out the women's league now because I just don't have the time to play a full season. Now, if I ever get the time again to start playing full seasons, this goes straight back up to number 1. But I feel like since it's such a short season, it feels rushed. So I can't enjoy it as much. But I'll be honest, in a few more weeks, or actually by the time this airs, I will probably have already started my draft. I do my draft at the end of the year around Christmas time, and filter out some old cards, move some team, do some trades, get the new class of rookies into the game, make cards for them, and then January 1st, play ball. I used to wait till baseball season started, and that took too long. So then I waited for spring training to start, and that took too long. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to start at the beginning of the year, because every year I can't wait to start playing Stratomatic Baseball. Sadly, though, not number 1. Have to be fair. I wanted to put this higher, but I have to be fair. I do like some other games better now. However, Stratomatic Baseball, still number 1 in my heart, if not number 1 on my list. So there you go.
Well, number 10 for me is one that is a definite classic. It is one I've talked earlier on this list about ones that I like, things where you can shoot things at each other. And it's got the granddaddy for shooting things at each other, Crossbows and Catapults.
I knew this would be on there.
Nah. Yeah, it's a classic. There's not a lot needs to be said about Crossbows and Catapults, to be honest with you, because most people know this one, and they love it. Things trying to knock down your opponent's pieces, trying to knock down your opponent's castles. There are newer versions of this. Battlefield, I think it's called, came out in the early 2000s. And I would have thought, for me, that I would have liked that even more because it has orcs in it. And I really like the whole fantasy thing. It has orcs in it versus these kind of mystical knights. But I have to say, I prefer this version. I really do like this one. The pieces are quite basic by today's standards, but they've got a really nice nostalgia to it. I really do like the box artwork on this. The mechanisms work really well, and considering this is nearly 40 years old, the mechanisms are still working on most of these. They're pretty robust systems considering the abuse that they've taken over the years. And it's just fun to hit things with stuff and blow things up with rubber bands.
Of course, that makes sense. I hear that Bernardo's mom puts this on the top shelf where he can't reach it. He has to finish his homework and do his chores before he can play it. So, but yeah, no, Crossbows and Catapults I have not played before. I've seen everyone's reviews. It looks great. It looks great. So I would love a copy myself. Okay, so I spent number 10 glowing about this one. This next one, I won't spend much time talking about it because it's just a regular card game with playing cards. Should I even show? Yeah, I'll show a picture. Why not? But this is the game Nerds. I mean, technically, you have a stack of 13 cards on one hand. Everyone has that. They're trying to get rid of those cards. It's played like good old solitaire. You have 4 rows where black on red and red on black go on top. But the difference is where you would put your ace at the top. That's where everyone can play, and that's where you get your points. Once you run out of your stack of 13, you yell Nerds. Anyone who still has cards in their stack, they are subtracted from the cards in the middle of the pile, and then you add up points. In our games, whoever gets to 100 first wins the game. This is just a regular standard card game with a deck of cards. My family has started playing this on our beach vacations again, and I love that we play this game. I'm a huge fan of this game. I'm very good at this game too, but it is an excellent little card game, Nerds. So that's it. I'm not going to spend much time talking about a card game, but I do love it. I do love it.
Never heard of that one. Any idea where the name comes from?
I have no idea. I used to play with my great grandmother when I was a kid. So I don't know where they got it, but it's just one of those old games that, like whatever the other card games you can play, but it's just one of the ones that I don't hear anyone ever talk about it, but it's something that we've played in our family for years. And then they stopped playing it. And now recently, the past few years, we've been playing it again at the beach. And I mean, like 6 of us at a time. And as long as you have a deck of cards. So I always bring multiple decks of cards because my family doesn't really play that many. They won't play board games with me, but they'll play Nerds. So, and I'll be honest, if we keep playing this one, it could be a number 1 game one day because I just love playing this little card game. So, all right, what's number 9 for you?
Number 9 for me is from 1992. This is a European release based on a slightly earlier US release. It is The Great Museum Caper. Museum Caper is based on Clue, on a Clue spin-off anyway, a Clue spin-off which has very little to do with actual Clue. Of course, over here in Britain, it's not called Clue, it's called Cluedo. So when they brought out this game over here in the European market, they completely got rid of Cluedo and all on Clue and all of that kind of tie-in. The US version of this game has the characters from Clue actually being the ones trying to solve the museum caper, whereas the UK version, the European version, doesn't have any of those characters. They're just completely unrelated characters. The UK version, sadly, is slightly smaller They made it cheaper by reducing the board so it's got less plastic. The board is very slightly smaller than the US version, which is a bit of a pain because it means that the security cameras on it don't fit perfectly how they should when they're in the corridors. And so instead of being north, east, south, west, they sometimes have to go at diagonals, which brings up weird rules. And so the UK version, the cameras can see in diagonal lines, whereas in the US version, they can't. But it's weird. Just ignore that rule. But beautiful, beautiful artwork on it. And basically, it's one versus many. One person is a thief going around the museum trying to steal the artwork, and everybody else is a person in the museum trying to capture the person who is the art thief. The person who's the art thief has got a little pad which has a plan of the museum printed onto it, and they secretly mark how they are moving around the museum. Everybody else has got to move their piece around, trying to spot the thief through line of sight. If as soon as the thief is seen, then they have to put their piece on the board and they don't need to use the pad anymore. But players can use line of sight to try and spot the thief. They can also use security cameras, but the thief can cut the wires to the security cameras. They can go to the security room and switch off the cameras. They've got to think carefully about how they're moving around. If they steal a painting, that painting disappears on their next go after they've moved on. So the people who are looking for the thief will know where they are when those paintings disappear, but they will be a bit behind the thief. So you've got to try and move around, sneaking about, trying not to get caught, trying to be smarter than everybody else, and I like it. It's nice. It's got a nice 3-dimensional board, which it didn't need. There was no need for the board to be 3D, but it's a really nice touch and it looks really good.
Yeah, it's crazy. They attached the name Clue to this game, so they thought that in the U.S. because they thought Americans wouldn't buy it unless it was somewhat familiar. But it has nothing to do with Clue. It doesn't even play like Clue.
Nope,
it's such a different game, and it holds up on its own. I've seen reviews; it looks great. It's just expensive to get in the U.S., I think. Okay, so my number 8 is a game that has been reprinted in a way. It's a different type of game, but it's the same idea. This one is Star Wars Epic Duels. Restoration Games has reprinted this game and titled it Unmatched. And wait a minute, where is this? Is that it? That's not it. On just a moment here. Something happened to where's my Star Wars Epic Duels? Let me try this again. Well, now I can't find it. I had it. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right. Star Wars Epic Duels has these great pre-painted minis. You're facing off. It could be prequel versus prequel, or the original trilogy versus the prequel. As you see, it has Darth Maul versus Anakin, or you can replay the whole classic Jango Fett versus Obi-Wan, or maybe on the bridge of the Death Star, Mace Windu versus Darth Vader. And that's exactly what this game is. It's just put together your dream matches. You're playing cards for attack and defense, rolling dice to see who all gets to move, maybe all your characters, maybe some of them. You have one main character and a complementary character that's a lot weaker, or 2 complementary characters that are a lot weaker, and you're battling it out. Where I bragged earlier about last week about beating my wife at Dream Phone every time we played. My wife has beat me at this game every time we played. So at one of her favorite games, I always win. One of my favorite games, she always wins. And so neither one of us can get a win in our favorite game category. I love Star Wars Epic Duels. It's a little expensive in a way, like 80-something bucks usually is what I see it for. But for what you get, it is a lot of fun. I hear Unmatched is amazing. I've never played it, but I hear it's really good and basically follows the same concept of Epic Duels. But Epic Duels is an excellent game, and that is why it is my number 8.
Not one I've come across, but I am a huge Star Wars fan, so it would definitely be one that I would pick up if I came across it.
Oh, do so, sir. Do so. Do yourself a favor. It's a great game. All right. What is your next one?
For number 8 for me, this I'm not going to talk a lot about this because you've mentioned it already. Quite a lot higher in your list. From 1987, for me, it is Web of
Web of
It can
Gold.
be once. It can. Yeah, it can be quite one-sided if you team up on people, but that's part of the fun. It's a good game. I like this one. If you want to be mean to people, great. It's great. It's a good one for being nasty. It's a lot of take that to it. But yeah, as you said before, moving around the cavern, trying to collect the gold as much as you can, and avoiding spiders and avoiding being bitten by the spiders or avoiding being caught up in the webs. Again, it's very kind of Indiana Jones moving around, particularly since he doesn't like spiders. Classic scene where he turns around and his back is completely covered in spiders.
Yep.
That's it. Tray looks nice. I really like that it's all self-contained in the box. It's nice 3D nature to it. It looks really good and it works well. All this little slots with the web pieces. It's a really nicely designed game. Works really good. One thing I did mention is that we had a slightly different version of the front cover. You can see here, this is a slightly different one from the one that you showed.
Yeah.
But our version, if you look closely at this one, you can see it's definitely a guy holding a lantern, but here we go. Oh, let me see if we go like this. Oh, that's the wrong picture. That's the wrong picture. Okay, version. The version that I've got is this one here, which is the exact same piece of artwork, but they've given him a boy's head. He's got the same man's body, the same man's arms.
You told me about this.
Pasted a little boy's head on top of the body. Looks really weird. But
what would a little boy be doing there? Get him out of there. Help him. Help him. Somebody help him. Oh man, that's hilarious. I guess because they said, hey, this game is for kids. Kids come play. But the adult, they still have the bearded man, right? Or something, right? So weird. So weird.
Yeah, the playing pieces still have beards. Yep.
That's right. Hit puberty by the time you open the box. My number 7 is, in my opinion, the best electronic game on the market. It was a former number 1 on my list a few years ago, and it is eBay, the electronic board game. There are 3 different bays you are trying to bid in. Everyone has the same type of cards they're bidding on. This one's kind of small here. This picture is small, but the auction will end randomly. It doesn't tell you when it's going to end. So you're trying to grab as many collectibles as you can. There are cards that look the same, but on the back, the estimated value and the real value is going to be either higher, lower, or exactly at the estimated value. So you never know which one you're getting, and it could be worth more than what you paid for. And definitely, if you can low bid, if you can win your cards, whatever card you won with is eliminated from the game. You can't use it anymore, thereby creating a catch-up mechanism. Because if you don't have any big cards anymore, that means the other players can catch up and get some nice goods too. There is extra points given for set collection. And I love this game. I know they recently at Gen Con released a exclusive Gen Con eBay board game, not the electronic game. I kind of want to try it out, but at the same time, nothing equals the love and fun that I have had with eBay, the auction game. I just adore this game. It is my number one electronic game. And that's a lot. I've named some excellent electronic games, but I've always had more fun with eBay.
Putting it higher than Amiga virus. Luke and Bernardo be after you for that one.
Well, you know what? Bernardo can't tell the difference in Omega Virus and Monopoly, I think, most times now. He's so far out of the game now. Who knew this would be a Bernardo, bashing channel too? But there it is. All right. So what is number? I don't want to talk about him. He's bringing our conversation down. What's number 7, Mark?
Number 7 for me. I'm putting this on the vintage list, but I would imagine this is possibly more likely to be one that would turn up maybe in a top 100 modern board games list, because it's still played today and it's still talked about a lot on likes of the Board Game Geek Facebook groups. This is a really good game, but it came out originally in the year 2000 with a very limited run of 1,000 pieces. All of the pieces were handmade or by the game designer. They had to sand the pieces and stick on all the stickers.
I don't think people realize how old this game is, but yeah, it does count. It does count. Yeah. I agree with that.
There was only 1,000 released in 2000, in the year 2000. So yeah, it's definitely vintage by my book. I would imagine most people see it looking something more like this, though. This is the modern day version. This is admittedly the version that I've got. I have to say, I do actually prefer the heavy, hard plastic Bakelite pieces to the wooden pieces. They're really, really tactile, really nice. But this is a great game. Again, 2-player abstract strategy games. I play this with my wife all the time because you can play it anywhere. You don't need a board. You could literally, and it also comes with a little zip up bag so you can carry it around with you. And there's pocket versions as well, but it is insect based chess. So you've got to basically maneuver your pieces to surround with your pieces and potentially your opponent's pieces their queen bee. And each of the different pieces in the hive moves a different way. So the ants, for example, can move to anywhere on the outside of the hive, whereas the grasshopper, the locusts can only, the beetles cross the top of the hive. The spiders go in sets of 3 moving around. And there's a lot of strategy in this, particularly since you're not allowed to break the hive. You're either placing, on your turn, you're either placing down a piece or you are moving a piece that's already placed down. If you're putting down a piece, you're not allowed to put it down touching your opponent's color. But if it's already on the board, you can then move it to touch your opponent's color. If you're moving a piece, you can a piece that then splits the hive in 2. So sometimes you can use that to your advantage in order to trap the other person into not being able to move pieces, which they could use to trap your queen. There's a lot of strategy to this one. It's a really, really fun game. A lot of thinking to it.
Yeah, I've never played it before, but I hear great things about it. And it is an older game, so good call on that. All right. The next game I have on my list, I think has always been in my top 10. I think it's a very cheap game to get, and it's got pre-painted minis, and it's so much fun to play. It is Battle Ball. It's football, American football of the future, and you can only play as 2 teams, a red team and a blue team. Each character rolls with a different type die. There's tons of dice in this. There's a metal football too. And basically you're passing or rushing. And then when you go next to someone head to head with someone else, you've got to roll. Whoever gets the lowest die roll will take out their opponent for that half. Or if it's a 1, they'll take them out, period, for the game. And slower people who roll with the 6-sided die can hit harder. But they can't, if they can catch up with a fast person. So someone who rolls with a 20-sided die may not beat a 6-sided die because they're usually going to have a lower number. But that 6-sided die person is much slower when they're walking or running on the field. It's well balanced. I love this game. I see this game in flea markets and, just, used or garage sales or whatnot all the time for super cheap. And I love, love, love this game. I don't know why it ever took off with vintage people because it's so much fun. I will play this game all the time. And every time we have a close game each time, like I'll be down to the 1 yard line. I think I was playing with my wife and I was down to the 1 yard line and she tackled me and we fumbled the ball. She picked it up, ran all the way back because I couldn't get people who were fast enough to catch up with her. And she won it. And she goes, I want you to know you were right there with the ball. Like to stick it in my face too. But that's the thing. You think you're going to win and victory is stolen from you. And you take it across the field and score. It's such a fun game. 2 players. Hey, look, I have a 2-player game up in my top 10. Who knew? But this is an excellent game. I actually have a few 2-player games in my top 10 because I bash two. Oh, I don't bash 2-player games. I just say I don't play that many. But this one I do play. There are a lot of my 2-player games I love. You're going to see up here, but Battle Ball is one of them. I love the game. Beautiful minis. It's worth the price for the minis and the dice.
Yeah, I managed to pick that one up at a car boot sale here for about £1 a while ago. Sadly, I've not managed to get it to the table yet. I've not played it yet, but I really do want to. The pre-painted minis alone are easily worth the price.
It's excellent. And that die-cast metal football. Why? It's so nice to have some heft too. So great. All right. So what is number 6?
Number 6 for me, I think I might have possibly have spoiled it already by accidentally flashing up a picture on this last one, but it is from 1985. It is a game that has gone on to influence my entire YouTube channel. We have got
brought the hat.
Waddington's. We have got Waddington Lost Valley of the Dice. It's classic. I grew up. Obviously, I've loved dinosaurs all my life. I originally wanted to be an archaeologist or a paleontologist when I was a kid. That was my dream job that I wanted to do. And I used to really love Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, reading that. And the Dinotopia book, the gorgeous artwork that's in that with people living in a lost valley in harmony alongside dinosaurs. This is what I themed my YouTube channel on. So this is why you see me wearing a ridiculous hat and safari gear in my YouTube reviews. But I love this. This is so nostalgic. It's so retro. Unfortunately, the dinosaurs themselves are they are not the best painted miniatures. The sculpts on them are not too bad, but they look like they're wearing lipstick and that they are spaced out of their minds with goggly eyes. But it's a lovely little game. It's got 3D mountains on it at the sides. It's got actual dinosaur toys that you can play with, basically, if you're not playing the actual game. It's got lava tiles that come down. You're moving around. You're trying to move your explorers over to the temple in the Lost Valley and collect the gold and escape with the gold, being careful not to get attacked by dinosaurs and carried off to the T-Rex's caves, or there's a pteranodon or pterodactyl that can come down and swoop you. And actually, no need for it at all, but has an actual spring mechanism so it can pick up the playing pieces in its beak and fly them off to its nest. You've got the lava that is slowly spreading across the board, which is a really nice touch. It's just a really, really nice thematic game with really nice pieces.
I agree with you. And another thing is, on the back of the board is a map, like a big drawing. Beautiful. It's beautiful. This is the epitome of, I don't even call it overproduced stuff by Waddington. They just took a lot of care to make these games very appealing to kids. Like, we're not going to do, in the US, it's a lot of cardboard standees and cheap dye. Just sling it out there for as cheap as we can do. No, Waddington goes, we're going to make a toy. We're going to make these T-Rexes look like they're on crack. That's how much we care about the game. And I'll be honest, Luke and Bernardo would both agree with you. Lost Valley of the Dinosaurs is definitely in their top 10. I also accidentally revealed one of my top 5 games here. So I'll talk about right now. It's the ultimate push your luck game. Can't Stop. Can't Stop. Let me pull up my picture of it here. Can't Stop is where you're rolling dice and trying to move your players up to different areas on the board. Now, for some reason, it's not pulling up. Why is it not pulling up? Oh, there it is. To find it for a minute. There it is. So you're rolling the die. Very simple. Moving your traffic cones up the board and trying to get all 3 traffic cones to one of the numbers. Once you get to that number, whether it's 2 through 12, no one else can roll for that number anymore. So it's first one to get to that number 2. Of course, 7 is the longest row because you can easily row 7s, but 2s and 12s are the shortest path to victory because those are hard to roll. And you keep rolling until you cannot combine to get one of those numbers. And if you stopped, then you save your spot. If you didn't, you start all the way back to the bottom. This is such a great game. It's still in print today. This is the new version by Eagle Griffin Games. It did come out with an expansion, which I have. It's Can't Stop Rolling Down the Highway. It's all right, but it takes forever to set up because you're setting up little cardboard pieces over every single stupid square on the board. And that to me is just nope. I played it when I did my review, and I thought this just takes the setup is way too long. In the regular game, you just put the board out and start chucking die. That's it. There is no setup. So to add tons of setup to it, I appreciate them trying to come out with an expansion for Can't Stop, but it doesn't need one. Can't Stop is perfect on its own. I bought an old version of this for $1 at a flea market right before seeing Norm from the Board Game Museum. And we played it later on that evening and had a blast with it. I love Can't Stop. So definitely my number 5. So what is your number 5, sir?
Number 5. Number 5 for me. We're on 5 now. We're getting there. Number 5 from 1986. You have talked about it already, so I'm not going to go into it. But it is Thunder Road.
It's a good choice.
This, and as you can see here, I've got the British version, the British artwork rather than the American artwork. But other than the box cover, everything else is the same. Actually, that's not strictly true. The game pieces are slightly different sizes. The cars are in the UK version and the US version are slightly different sizes. But basically everything else is the same. It's good fun. As you say, Mad Max, it's definitely a Mad Max rip-off, as I showed in my review of this game. The original designs for this game actually did feature Mad Max and some of the other characters like Lord Humongous on the actual board artwork itself. But they then had to change that basically because it was cheaper. And they also thought it would get for more longevity out of it. But it's really nice. All of the vehicles in it are also clearly based on vehicles from the Mad Max 2 film. Yep. So it's definitely a Mad Max film, Mad Max game. But it's really, really good fun rolling and moving. But you've got lots of choice in this. And as you said, lots of people have put new rules to it. If you get bored with the bog standard game, say bog standard, it's a good game as it is out of the box, but there are masses and masses of expansion rules that fan-made rules have come up with. And even if you just get a couple of rocks out of your garden and put some rocks on it in order to create narrow bottlenecks and things, it automatically makes the game a lot more interesting, and you can vary it up.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a great game. It's a solid game. I don't blame you for having it in your top 5 there, because it's definitely worth it. My number 4 is a game that's basically legendary, you could say. It was a former number 1. It is a game that my buddy who comes in from Indianapolis every Christmas, we are definitely going to play this game first. He wants to play this game, and then we can play anything else afterwards. But he wants to play this game first. It is Star Wars Queen's Gambit, the behemoth of a game that is definitely worth every penny that you spend. The game's way too much, in the hundreds of dollars now, but it has tons of minis. It is 3 different boards. You're playing cards, playing through a deck of cards, and taking actions on one of the 3 boards. And it's basically the last 15, 20 minutes of the movie. You're Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon taking on Darth Vader. You're Anakin in a starfighter trying to get to the droid megaship to end the game. That's a game ender there. You're on the Battle of Naboo fighting, and that gives you extra any wins on that battlefield gives you extra cards for the next round. Or you're in the palace with Padme and, oh gosh, I forgot his name now, Captain Panaka, and you're trying to move up the 3 tiers on the middle of the board to try to win the game as well by shutting down and capturing the Ducat or whatever his name is. Anyway, that one rarely, if ever, happens. But the only way that the bad guys can win is if they take out and eliminate the Naboo patrol party inside the palace. Now, that does include any surviving Jedi, which usually there's always one. Obi-Wan will eventually beat Darth Maul. Darth Maul will usually always kill Qui-Gon. And so the game kind of plays out just like the movie does every time. And so Obi-Wan's a little hard. He's not impossible to kill, but he is kind of hard to kill. He is weakened, though, so that's very thematic, too, because Darth Maul has weakened him a lot, too, which makes it easier to try to take him out. This game is brilliant. Absolutely love it. They did re-skin it and dumb it down, water it down as Star Wars Risk, which is basically the last 20 minutes of Return of the Jedi, but it's on a really dumbed down scale. If you've played Star Wars Risk, you're like, wow, this is the best game ever. That means you've never played Star Wars Queen Gambit, which is 10 times better. I love Queen's Gambit. Excellent game. My number 4. Okay, sir, your turn.
Okay, number 4. Number 4. This is one I think you're pretty much expecting to be in my top 10. From 1986. It is a Waddington's, and it is Escape from Atlantis.
Yes, great game.
This is the UK version of Survive. Basically, I don't know a lot about Survive, but I think it's basically the same game. I don't really think there's much of any differences to the 2 of them at all. But this is the Waddington's version with 3D plastic pieces rather than pieces of flat cardboard. So this is a gorgeous looking game for the era. The island, you actually build up the island from the plastic pieces, and it does actually get higher and higher. You've got actual shark pieces, you've got actual 3D boats, you've got the 3D. None of these wooden meeples. No. 3D sculpted plastic pieces that look really, really good. And this is the 86 version. They also released it re-released it in 96. I've got both versions of them. The 96 one looks much better. The 96 version has got much nicer looking, much more detailed sculpts on the pieces. has different rule set to it. I did an in-depth review comparing the two different versions and the different rule sets, but this version plays better than the 90s version, but the 90s version looks better, but the pieces also are bigger, so they don't fit in the hexes as nicely together when you've got more than one piece. So for me, this is the ideal version. This is the best version. Although there is a foreign release version, which instead of having the wooden bog standard playing pieces for the people, has actually got little sculpted plastic kind of robed monks. I think it's a Swedish version, and that looks really nice. If I could get that one, that would probably be my ideal one, because the box art on that one is also even better. Really nice. But this is a really good game. You can stick it when rules appear and start dragging people in and pieces of island, depending on which version of the game you're playing. It's great fun.
Yeah, that is the nicest version of the game to me. And even though I have a copy, I want that copy. It is gorgeous. It is drop your jaw gorgeous. You did a review on this one showcasing your set. And the whole time, yeah, you could just put it on mute and just look at the beautiful pieces you're talking about. I was just aghast, like, look how beautiful it is. It's so nice. So nice. All right. My number 3 has never been number 1, even though as a kid it was number 1 in my heart all the time. Restoration Games did do a reprint of it. I have it. I have everything. And even all the hard-to-find promos, it is Fireball Island, obviously. I love Fireball Island. I played the original version as a kid all the friggin' time. And now they come up with a new version, which is just as fun, if not, well, definitely better. And there's so many, the Bees and Flying Tiger, Hidden Bees, Flying Tiger is still my favorite expansion, even though I am excited to hear they're supposedly going to make one more expansion to this. And so far, we haven't heard anything. We were supposed to hear something about it by now, but we haven't. But I want it all. I play with it all. Like I said, the promos, the little mini modules you can add to it. It's basically a board game version of an Easter egg hunt, where you just say, go, and everyone runs like crazy around the island. There's so many ways to get points. So many ways to get points. You're going here, there, here, there. You're flicking fireballs, boulders, bees, flicking tigers. I mean, spiders, if you have the expansion, cannonballs in certain places. I mean, blaze out craziness, and it is great. The table presence, the 3D board, everything about this just screams fun, fun, fun. Actually, someone that I know, he bought this game at Target. It's his little boy's favorite game, and he had no idea it had expansions. I said, yeah, bring him over sometime. We'll play all the expansions, because he's just blown away by this game, and I know the feeling. It is a phenomenal game. It's always floated around my list at number 2, number 3. And even though it's great, maybe if Restoration Games brings out that last expansion, then it'll be a number 1 game for me. But still, I mean, hey, number 3, it's a top game, top of the line. Fireball Island. I would even play the original version still from time to time, because I do miss it. And I do have it. I got it right before board games got ridiculously priced, because I wanted a copy from my childhood.
Fireball Island for me would be definitely a top 10 vintage game. Apart from, I don't have the vintage version. I've never played the vintage version. I desperately want it. It is the top of my most wanted list, but I don't have it. And for me, the reprint of it is different enough that it's a new game, and I wouldn't list it as vintage, but I can see why you would. But yeah, fantastic game. Really love it.
Yeah, definitely up to interpretation whether it's vintage or not. But for me, I count any reprints. And yes, it is vastly different, but the core of the game is still there, flicking fireballs down to blow people over. So it still has all the essences of the core. But that's what Restoration Games does so well with their games. They never veer away from the core, what made the game popular in the first place. They always keep it true, but then they add on different levels to it to make it even better for the new, the new age here of board games. And it's a great company, great company.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what is number 3 for you?
Number 3, putting it in the top spots where it belongs, is a virus from 1992.
Of course, it's a great game.
It's a beautiful game. The board artwork, the box artwork, the sculpted pieces, the electronic, just the programming that's gone into it, apart from anything. The rule book with the comic strip in it, the full color comic strip. This is just a really, really clever game. And the pieces look, the astronauts and things look phenomenal. And, I did a review. It wasn't really a review, but I looked into the actual sculpt of the game board pieces and, found that they're actually based on another pre-existing toy from the same company, which is really weird.
Yes, I didn't know that until watching your video.
Yeah, it was a really strange discovery. So if you're a big fan of this game, you can actually make yourself a custom action figure based on this game. Check out my YouTube channel to see how to do that. But it's a great game. I love the countdown aspect of it. Again, just like Break the Safe, where you're rushing against time, you really have to be quick in this. There's a lot of things happening in this game, and it's just so nicely put together that a lot of thought has gone into creating that game.
I agree. I'm excited to see what Restoration Games is going to do with this, because as a vintage game, it's perfect. I'll play this all. There's nothing wrong with the vintage game. I'm sure they can make it better, but for right now, I love that vintage game.
Yeah,
so, all right. Good. Well, yeah. Now we're in the big 2 here. My number 2 was last year's number 1, and it lost the top spot. This was introduced to me by Luke from Down from the Attic. It is Pro Action Football. And when I say football this time, I'm talking about what the world thinks of football, which is, of course, the soccer, what we call a soccer here. This is a flick 'em game. You're flicking these pieces. They're screaming across the mat. You're slamming down. It's a magnet at the base where the soccer ball is a magnet, and you're slamming it down, and it basically is kicking it to other players or into the goal. Where you put the game mat determines how fast that ball is going to fly. You can put it on a hard surface like a table, and it's going to fly a lot faster. You put it on a thick carpet, it goes a lot slower. You put it on a medium carpet, it's about midway through. And I found this out because wherever I put the game, the ball moves differently. And I like that. Just kind of how different fields, different grass, it'll move differently on the field. Again, I hate soccer. I don't care about the World Cup at all. Never have, never will. I've never even cared about the sport, really. But this game is so stinking good. It's so stinking good. It comes with a trophy. Why? When you win the game, you just package everything up. No, you hold the trophy and go, go. You say goal, and you hold it out for as long as you can whenever we score on goals on this. And I cannot get over the fun factor in this game. It is unbelievable. They should honestly repackage this as a hockey game, because I actually love hockey. And I keep thinking, man, this would be perfect for just do the same thing. I mean, but the puck is not really a ball, so it can't roll. So I guess it had to be a black ball. But I'd play it as a hockey game too. Man, this game is so much fun. Tell me you have a copy of this.
I'm not a football fan. I don't have it at all.
I'm not either, but get a copy. It is so much. I hate soccer. I hate it. But I love this. It's fun flicking and shooting, and if you can shoot it to one of your players and it kicks, you feel like a champion. It's such a fun game. like I said, I hate soccer. I hate the World Cup and everything. I will play this game all the time. Love this game. So it may get to be number one again. Who knows? But all right. So what's your number two?
Number two, well, for me, I've kind of mentioned already that I really do like games which have plastic pieces, sculpted pieces. Not a fan of meeples. I might get for that, but never mind. So this is a game that has got many, many plastic pieces that look very nice. Not only plastic playing pieces, we've all plastic furniture as well, from 1989 Hero Quest from Milton Bradley. I am a big, big fan of fantasy. And if this is a top 100 or top 50 vintage board games, now, if I could get away with it, personally, I would be putting number one as Dungeons and Dragons, because I absolutely love Dungeons and Dragons, and it is the game that I play the most. I play it every single week. I've got an after-school club that I run with some of the children in my school, and it's great. I absolutely adore Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm not going to say that it's a board game. So hence why it's not in this list. Otherwise, it would be my number one. This is as close to Dungeons and Dragons as you can probably get, or at least you could in a vintage game. This is D&D Light. This is the gateway onto people playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's moving around a literal dungeon on a board, going through little tiny plastic and cardboard doorways into rooms that are full of goblins and skeletons and orcs and zombies, all of your absolute classics. It's got furniture in there as well, which not really needed, but make it look so nice on the table. And it comes with rule books, or rather it comes with quest books, and there are lots of quests that you can do with this. And obviously it's been re-released today, and you'll have seen from the re-releases there are many expansions for this. There were also expansions last 40-ish years. There have been lots of fan-made quests, which have been put into books and are professionally published. There's so much that you can do with this. They brought out a quest map book, so you could design your own quests for it. There's so much you can do with it. So many expansions. It's great. You can do so much with it. And it's simple. It's rolling dice to fight, but it's good fun.
Yeah. If this game was a woman, Luke would make love to it several times. He is a big fan of Hero.
Painter like myself, you can paint everything up, and it looks amazing painted.
In fact, I think Luke would agree. This is probably number two for Luke too, I bet. Yeah. His number one, I think, would be one that I haven't mentioned yet because I don't have it, and you may mention, so I'm not going to say. Folks, now it's the time we get to number one. My number one entered my collection last year. I played the bejesus out of it. It's amazing, and I'm a history buff, so it falls in line with something that an era of history that I really love. This one is called Battle Cry. Let me show you a picture of the 150th anniversary edition, because that's the one that I have. The regular edition, which is quite cheap, is made by Avalon Hill, and it's still excellent. This game is classic North versus South. It reenacts several battles from that era, and in explicit detail. It is a two-player. This is a two-player game. Two-player games for number two and number one here. But this two-player game has certain levels, certain tiles that you're going to put on the board to rearrange the playing board and play out the game as the battles consisted back then. So many strategies. You're playing cards that will let you play on the left, middle, or right flank, and you're moving your garrisons according to their flanks. But you can move a garrison from like your left flank to the center, or from center to right, and help get rid of some of the cards you have. Maybe you have some left flank cards, but you have no armies in your left flank. Well, you can slowly start moving them over to your left flank so you can attack from that angle. So again, it's not like the obvious, you just charge forward. You can't, I mean, you can do that, but a lot of times it's about maneuvering and trying to outwit your opponent. This game is so well designed that it makes you end after capturing X amount of flags, which usually it's generals who carry the flags. And once you've captured so many flags, it says the game is over, this team has won. But we have tried to play this through a couple of times and said, no, let's keep playing because I feel I can win. No, you can't win. The tide has turned after they capture that X flag. This has been test played so well that they know exactly the tipping point of each scenario. Like they must have played it several times. I am blown away by how amazing this game is. Like I said, the only reason it wasn't number one last year, I have a rule. If a new game enters my collection, it cannot be number one. Because, you know, you get a new game, you're all excited, you make it the number one game ever. And then the next year it's like number 50 or something because it's gotten old. So I said, no, I'm going to make it number two because it shouldn't be number one, even though I love it. And now this year I'm still playing it. I still think it's amazing. It's number one. This version is a little expensive to get if you can find it. But the one from Avalon Hill is just as good. Avalon Hill is the same people who did Queen's Gambit. So it's a good version if you can get the Avalon Hill one too. And that one's cheap. But either way, I love this two-player version of Battle Cry. It is simple in that you're playing from three different areas and just follow the rules of the card. You're sending your cavalry, your tank, your cannons, you're positioning your cannons. You're trying to attack the hill, but you're at a negative advantage. The person on top of the hill is at a positive advantage, but you've got to somehow maneuver around them. There are trenches you can build. I mean, just so many pieces, but the game isn't complicated. I gotta harp on that because even though there's several different rules with mountains or cities or forests, like if someone's attacking you in a forest, they're a -1 because they're trying to shoot. The trees are defending you, you know, so you may have a smaller army, go hide them in the forest when you see a big garrison coming to crush you. Like I said, I love the strategy in this game. That is why it is my number one vintage board game of all time, Battle Cry.
Cool.
All right.
Number one. Last one. Here we go. Number one for me is one that Bernardo put me onto from 1975. It is Hey Taxi.
Shut up. Go. Move to the next one. Garbage. I know you were waiting for
It's not really. Number one for me.
Oh, you surprise me. That is the original version.
This is the second edition, this one.
Oh, okay.
So the original version is from the 80s. This particular version, this is the version that I've got. This is from 1996. This is Space Hulk second edition. There are newer versions, much newer versions, but I love this. It's really good. I was a big fan of Aliens by James Cameron, the movie. And this game, I love games with miniatures. I love painting things. And as you can see in this picture here, it comes with so much stuff. It's a game, it's got lots and lots of aliens in it. They are the Gene Stealers well before Games Workshop and Citadel made them into a whole species with lots of different types. This was just, at the time, they were just these big aliens that came and attacked you. And they look really cool. This is definitely a knockoff of aliens. You are playing either as the aliens or you're playing as the Space Marine Terminators, which have got this big power armor, and you've got a sergeant, and you've got your normal grunts, and you've got somebody with a flamethrower. And as you can see here, there's lots of different tiles, so you can build up maps, and it's modular, so it's going to look different every time. It comes with like a campaign book, which shows you exactly how you have to set out those tiles, because a Space Hulk in this game is basically an old, rotten, abandoned spaceship, a huge one that you are going through trying to do different missions, trying not to be killed by the aliens, the gene stealers. So you can see, and each game that you play is set out a different way according to the campaign. So you arrange the tiles in different ways. There's different bulkheads, there's doors. It's very much, it has a lot in common with Hero Quest, but with the space theme. And the aliens move around the board. As the Marine player, you can see the aliens, because just like in the film Aliens, you've got like this motion tracker that puts off little blips. So you can see the aliens moving around on these little blip counters, but you don't know how many there are on that blip counter. There might only be one, or there might be 6 on there. And you don't know until they come into line of sight. As soon as they come into line of sight, then it turns into 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, and you start panicking. And so you've got to think tactically, move around, defend your position against what's coming at you, or you're going to try and move your aliens around, trying to avoid the people, the Marines who are set up, and you're going to attack them or try and defend yourself. It's a really nice game. It's got lots of good pieces. The sculpts on them are really good. Games Workshop has got a lot of great stuff. I'm not a big fan of actual Games Workshop's for 40k games, the big, huge army fighting. For me, as I said, I like strategy games where you've only got 1 or 2 things to concentrate on. Huge army games, not as keen on. I like the smaller kind of board games type ones that they've done, likes of their kill team things that they're beginning to bring out lots more of now. But this was kind of way before Kill Team, and this was like the original one team versus the other in a big spaceship. And that's it. Love it. Big fan of aliens, big fan of sci-fi movies. This one is what does it for me in the actual number one.
I have the 3rd or 4th edition, and I love it for the same reasons you just named. Excellent game. All right, folks. So there you have it. There you have it. Give us your top 10 in the comments below, and also check out Idic Raiders Retro Reviews. Give him a sub. He's doing great content, reviewing vintage games, and because what was it? The Tabletop Island is now defunct. There's no one living on the island anymore. So you definitely want to go to Attic Raiders and get your dose of vintage board game reviews. Mark, thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thank you for having me, Matt. It's been great fun. Really enjoyed it, and hopefully we can do some more stuff in the future.
I would love that. I would love that. All right, folks, that is it. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you maybe